I've been involved in the HCR 45 work group. That was a resolution that passed in last year's legislative session, or this year's legislative session. And it asked the Department of Health to conduct a study concerning the feasibility and desirability of implementing a system for tracking the location of children with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So we've had a number of sessions about that, and we continue to have that. In fact, we've spent a lot of time developing a survey to determine desirability for that type of device. And that survey, I believe, just became available. And so we'll push it out through social media, and the FHF centers are also going to help distribute that too. My council staff also attend a lot of meetings. Britton attended the OCDD State Advisory Committee, and they had updates from the 21 legislative session and discussed continuing advocacy needs. A number of us attended the Governor's Office on Disabilities Disability Affairs Conference, which was a really good conference if you weren't able to attend. The Emergency Management Disability and Aging Coalition, MDAC meetings. Britton also attended the Governor's Advisory Council on Disability Affairs Legislative Committee. And the LDH Enhanced FMAP spending feedback session. A number of us attended that as well. And the Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities waiver rate increase provider meeting. Julie just posted in the chat that a link to the HCR 45 survey is also available on the OCDD website. Ebony attended the NACDD Diversity, Inclusion, and Cultural and Linguistic Competence Work Group. She's been attending that work group for a few months now. And then these are all of the other meetings that I attended through, or most of them through July, from July through September. And they're all available for you to look at in the report. Can we update the link on the agenda for this update? Kim, would you mind turning your mic on and explaining what link?
When I click on the agenda online, I get the July 2021 council meeting.
Yeah, I had that same problem. I think Hannah just posted in the chat. I had the same problem, and then I, right before hopping back on, clicked on the links again, and it pulled up October. You might refresh the website, and that might help. Okay, so that's my executive director's report. I believe I also have the budget report next.
Hey, Amy, real quick, just to clarify, I think the question is the link within the agenda that you're looking at was off. The link on the meeting page is fine, but on the meeting agenda, it's linked to the July information.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will update that, Kim. We'll get that updated.
Thanks for that clarification. Go ahead with the budget report, and then we have any questions, we'll ask questions, whether it be about both the director's report and the budget report, please.
Sure. So this is the budget report. We are, this budget report only has first quarter expenditures. We run on the state fiscal year. So we started a new fiscal year in July. So this has just first quarter expenditures is all that's in there for now. We do not have, everything looks good because like I said, we only have a few months into this budget. So I don't know if anyone has any specific questions, but we're doing well so far in our budget. And as of right now, I don't anticipate any issues.
Okay, thank you, Mr. V. So we have the budget report and we also have the director's report. So we have any questions about the director's report or the budget report? I see your hand, Ms. Polozzoli, you're recognized.
Yeah, I have a question in regards to hiring. I know that the council has had less staff than this past year, and I know that I appreciate everyone's hard work and doing extra during that time that we had the limited staff. And as far as I know, I think we still have some vacancies. So my question is two parts in regards to the budget. Do we have budgeted enough for hires in the vacant positions? And I guess I should have said this other question first. We still have vacant positions, right? And can you tell us the status on those?
We do still have vacant positions. Those positions being filled is in the budget. So we shouldn't have any issues with that. The status is, I did put the deputy director position out for applications. So I do have applications and I have been interviewing and reviewing. No decisions have been made yet. And I will keep you updated as the process continues.
And just one last thing, is there something that you need in regards to that, like the council can support you in ensuring that you have the appropriate staff?
The issue that I have right now is about, it has to do with salary structure. And that issue will need to be worked out before I'm really able to hire a deputy director. So I'm working with Mr. Chair and the executive committee to start working on that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Polozzoli. Ms. Bazile, you're recognized by the chair.
Thank you. Two questions. How many people have been interviewed for the deputy director position so far?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I'm gonna say 5 to 7.
Okay. Also, are y'all working in the office now? And if not, when are plans for all of y'all to be back in the office working as one cohesive group?
We are currently still working from home. As of right now, we will return when LDH advises us to return. There was an original plan in place with the state for return back in August, I believe, and then the 4th wave hit and we were told to stay at home and that we would be advised when it was time to go back.
Okay. And one more question. I'm sorry. And I don't know if I'm overstepping, and if you can't say, that's fine. But and I don't need specifics, but what type of budget issues are y'all trying to work through, or budget structure, salary structure?
My current salary is set too close to one of my existing employees' salaries, and it does not leave enough room for
Let me interject for just a moment.
Sure.
To answer that question, that's one of the things that we're going to have that executive discussion about, because one of the things that we find ourselves having is there's a gap in that. So in order for us to be competitive, we're going to have to revisit that to make it competitive. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves with employees and then we'll lose them due to the fact that we didn't show the same competition and salary that others are. So there's some reassessments we have to do. Just kind of answer that question, put it back in perspective for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Haino, your hand is up. You're recognized by the chair.
How many openings do we have in our staff?
We currently have 2 openings. And then I have 2 staff that are out on leave, one who is back intermittently and one who is still out on leave.
Okay,
But I do have a temporary program monitor in place for one of those vacancies.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions from the council members in regards to the executive director's report or the budget report? Do I see your hand up? Is it still, is it on action, or do you have an accident, or do you have another question? Okay, it's down. Do we have any public comment in regards to the executive director's report or the budget report?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, you recognize.
All right, Hannah, this question is going for Hannah, and that
Question
if
before,
she's on.
is it in regards to the budget? We're still on the budget.
No.
Executive
I was
director.
going to say about the link, is these 2 links are the same or are they different? That's what I wanted to know. That's why I'm trying to ask Hannah on.
Ms. Hannah, if you respond.
I'm sorry, I can answer it. It's 2 different links.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to know. You couldn't be seen now, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So where are we on our agenda? We initially were supposed to take a recess, but at this point, I think we're
Standing committee reports, I believe.
standing committee report. Okay. So now we'll have our standing committee report.
Ms. Polasola, would you like to give your report for Act 378 subcommittee?
Yes, I apologize. I was totally off. Let me just pull that up. Okay. I assume you guys can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I apologize for the delay. Okay, the Act 378 subcommittee met yesterday, and we do not have any recommendations for the council to consider. We did spend time reviewing fiscal year 21 end of the year data and the first quarter of fiscal year 22 for programs for Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities and Office of Behavioral Health and Office of Aging and Adult Services, which is through the ARC of Louisiana. These reports can be found on the council's website under the council meeting section if you'd like to review. Looking over the OBH end of the year reports, we noticed quite a few of the local governing entities or LGEs didn't expend at least 90% of their consumer care resources funding. 95% is the performance indicator set by OBH, and those that missed it will have to submit a corrective action plan. This resulted in a lot of discussion about what happens to the funding if it's not used and how the LGEs set their budgets for their behavioral health programs. We sent a request to OBH asking the LGEs to answer the following questions at the next meeting. The first one is, how does each LGE determine how much will be budgeted for their consumer care resources and their flexible family fund program? And the next question is there a percentage of their funding that goes towards the CCR and or that FFF programs? And then what happens to any of the funds allocated that goes unspent? Now, if you recall at the last meeting, we had asked OCDD if they could provide us with information to determine what impacts, if any, the passage of Act 73 of 2017. What it has had on the delivery of our individual family support and flexible family fund services. Tanya Murphy with OCDD stated she has requested the business analytics unit study data from 2005 through now, I guess 2020, or 2021, that end of year, and compile a report that will hopefully be ready for the committee by our January meeting. Preliminary look at the data indicates more families have been served since the legislation, which is Act 73, was passed. We also discussed ongoing concerns for equitable funding for the LGEs, and Julie Hagan with OCDD mentioned that LDH, as part of their business plan, is looking at this and possible funding formulas to address inequity. And if you can remember correctly, we've had legislative agenda items addressing this in prior years. We also looked at the fiscal year in 2021 IFS requests and expenditures by service, which provides a regional breakdown of the requests by priority, in addition to the types of services and goods provided and the cost. And that's a big sentence. And if you look at the report, it's a pretty extensive report. And so at the July meeting, we discussed discrepancies in spending for the IFS funds across the region based on different services, and asked Ms. Murphy to address this with the LGEs. She did provide this information to all the developmental disability directors at each of our regional LGEs, but they were unable to meet this past quarter. She plans to meet with the directors prior to the January meeting and share her findings at that January meeting. Ms. Murphy also shared with the committee that the LGEs are continually looking at individuals utilizing IFS dollars to determine if their needs would be better met through a waiver. And that concludes my report. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Polozola. Do we have any questions in regards to the subcommittee report, Act 378 subcommittee report? All right, thank you again. So now we're up
Thanks,
to,
has her hand raised.
I apologize, I didn't see it. What's the name again? I still didn't see it.
Ms. Banks.
Okay, Vice Chair Banks, you're recognized by the chair.
And thank you, Chair. Ms. Bambi, I wanted to ask, did we give them a kind of like a timeline to get that done in regards to those reports and the indiscrepancies and stuff like that? Did we give them a timeline to have that done, or are they supposed to have that done by our next January meeting?
I think it's by our next meeting, but Brenton has already sent out the email, as I said, the questions about OBH. So I think that is for our next meeting. And then for the OCDD questions in regards to Tanya meeting with the DD directors at each of the LGEs, that I know for sure that's going to be a report given in January, unless there's some other unforeseen circumstances that delays it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any more questions from council members in regard to the Act 378 subcommittee report? Do we have any questions from the public?
No, sir.
Okay, well, we'll proceed on. Thank you again, Ms. Polozola. Now we'll move to Dr. McKee for Education Employment Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Education and Employment Committee meeting was held yesterday. We had a lengthy discussion from the Louisiana Department of Education in response to a letter that our former chairperson sent with some concerns regarding the safety reopening protocols and for our students with disabilities. The response letter was a response received from Dr. Brumley as it relates to the operational guidelines, with some links inside the letter stating what the Department of Education is going to do or has done or have put in place for the safe opening of the safe reopening of schools. Ms. Jordan was also there, and she discussed that there was some information related to parent-family engagement, and she provided a link to the report from the district management group. And the district management group was a group of individuals that was contracted by LDOE to conduct a survey and to ask and identify different strengths from stakeholders and to get some opinions and feedback as it relates to how special education services and diverse learner supports needed. It was a heated discussion amongst the public with some concerns as it relates to the way the dollars were spent in terms of, and the report that was provided by the district management group as it not being as extensive as it could have been or should have been. So there was some concerns about that and the reporting from the surveys. Ms. Jordan also provided a report on how the Department of Education is working to work with Families Helping Families, ways that parents and families can support students with disabilities during the 2021-22 school year, high cost services, and some changes as it relates to alternate assessments. More information regarding Ms. Jordan's report will be made public in the EE committee minutes. Ms. Marbs, also from Louisiana Rehabilitation Services, spoke on some of the work they've been doing in terms of the new employment transition program. They are in contact with schools to increase the number of applicants. There's a pilot program being held in 3 of the 8 regions, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and Houma, that allows the vendors to make connections with students during the study skills classes. There were some concerns from family members and as it relates to the outreach and making sure that families have the information about the options that are afforded to them and their children as it relates to how they themselves can get access to these programs. LRS is looking to increase the number of sessions with this programming from 64 to 108 per student. And their intent is they are targeting 800 students within 27 schools between 3 parishes. Again, the concern was more outreach is needed. Okay, the program is approximately a month old. And there's another meeting that's going to be scheduled Friday, October 22nd, between the vendors and the 3 regional managers to discuss the numbers. We also discussed the EE contractual activities for FY22 action plan. Ms. Davika Rayo from O'Neill Communications talked a lot about the employment webinars that were concluded in September. She talked about the campaign that was created, Working Together, 10 specific webinars, and different partnerships with local chambers and how to continue to do that. She did an extensive report on what they've been working on and how they developed the curriculum as part of a 28-page booklet. Some concerns of how people are getting access to this 28-page booklet and its information were noted. The Louisiana Post-Secondary Inclusive Education Alliance, Dr. Jerlyn Becker spoke about that. Certainly it was established in the fall of 2019. They are currently receiving funding and as it stands right now, they have a collective body of universities inclusive of HBCUs as well as community colleges. And she had some good news regarding 2 community colleges. Well, good news that BRCC received accreditation from DOE. And they are working really hard to get more funding to certify more programs for students access to post-secondary education opportunities. There was some dialogue about ensuring that there is a collaboration and a cohesiveness or as well as a partnership between LDOE and LRS to ensure that because there's some gaps in terms of when it comes to transition services from students going from high school to college. We only had one motion that came out of the meeting that was presented earlier today for the council consideration, and that was to add to advocate for more funding for LaPi. I believe that was that motion was already discussed earlier. And then lastly, we did have a report from Ms. Monroe regarding the customized employment training as it relates to the ARC. It is a really robust, seems like a really robust certified, scripted training. And so oftentimes that will leave some challenges for people to fully stick through with the program. But she did mention that there are people that are participating and they're working to increase those numbers. And so all of the information on the report, the full report will be posted for view. And so that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. McKee, for that report. Do we have any council members with any questions?
No hands are raised.
Okay. Do we have any questions from public comment on the chat box?
I'm not seeing any.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Dr. McKee, for the Education Employment Committee report. Now we'll move to the report. There'll be no action taken. We'll be placing it on file. Now we'll move to our Self-Determination Committee and Inclusion Committee report. So, Ms. Bazile?
Yes, thank you. Y'all please bear with me. I'm having vision issues today.
No problem.
The Self-Determination and Community Inclusion Committee met Monday. We have no recommendations, but we did get a lot of great updates from OCDD and Medicaid. A lot of the information is included already in their report, so I won't go over all of it. Julie did share an expansive list of initiatives OCDD plans to address in the coming year. The department has not finalized their public comment yet, listing all the initiatives, but she will share it with the council once it becomes available. We also briefly spoke about the recent home and community-based services rate increases and the 4 DD waivers and the direct support worker wage floor. The department agreed to provide our committee with a DSW turnover report at our quarterly meetings so we can see if the increased rates and pay have positively impacted that workforce. Regarding the Appendix K waiver exceptions, Julie shared that there are some upcoming focus groups, I believe she mentioned that earlier, to discuss the continuation of the 3 exceptions, in particular, legally responsible caregivers residing in the home serving as paid caregivers, which we've already discussed at length, suspension of the 16-hour rule for DSWs and virtual visits for some services. Department's goal is to have waiver amendments submitted to the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, or CMS, for approval by February in preparation for the eventual end of the exceptions. Kelly Zimmerman with Medicaid, who is taking the place of Jen Katzman, shared with us the department was no longer seeking to implement the Act 421 Children Medicaid Option Program, or what we used to call TEFRA, as a 1115 demonstration waiver. This is a very good thing. Rather, the program will be part of Medicaid's state plan option, which will ensure everyone who is eligible for the program will be able to participate. No waiting. In previous updates, we shared that a waiting list for the program was a possibility due to it being implemented as a waiver. She also shared that Medicaid is working closely with CMS and OCDD on drafting waiver amendments to include dental services for adults and hopes to have those amendments submitted to CMS in January. We received a lot of good contractual updates in goals 1 and 2 of the council's FY21 action plan. I encourage you to all review the status update document that we receive quarterly for specific updates on each activity and any of the documents linked in our committee agenda. That's
Thank
all we have.
So do we have any council members with any questions in regarding to the self-determination committee, community inclusion committee report?
I'm not seeing any. There's nothing in the chat and no attendees have their hand raised either.
Okay, thank you for that report. We will make sure it's recorded to file. We're actually ahead of schedule for lunch. The next thing we have, I'm gonna see if we can, go. Are you in a position to go ahead and do your report before lunch? Ms. Palazola? Unless I'm missing something. Ms. DeVille, feel free to interject.
No, you're on track. We would go to agency reports now.
So yeah, I'm the first one on the agenda.
Yes, please.
You are.
Mine.
Do you want for me to share your report?
Yeah, that'd be great. I was pulling it up. I should have studied the agenda better.
No problem. You give us enough time to call Uber Eats.
Okay. So as Amy had shared during her report, we had the GOTA conference, and I hope that many of you were able to attend. But if you were not, you can see we had over 700 attendees. I think all of our response that we received that it was really great. It was over 4 days. And I'm just thankful to everyone. Many of you were presenters, or all of our presenters volunteered their time and talent to and knowledge to the conference. So we really appreciate that. The link to the conference was recorded in multiple formats. So the link there will bring you to those sessions. If you ever need to use those sessions, just to learn something or share, you're welcome to those, to look at those recordings. And if you kind of just scroll through, I'll talk a little bit about our councils. GACTA, just to let you know, we had our meetings. Big thing was that we sent letters to our congressional delegation in support of the Able Age Adjustment Act, the Build Back Better Act, and the Better Care, Better Jobs Act, and asking for their support and explaining the impact it will have on people with disabilities. And then for our statewide independent living council, they have been housed within the governor's office of disability, the governor's office for many years, the governor's office of disability affairs. But they have went through the process to become an independent body outside of a government entity. And so they're like in the final stages of that, and ready to hire an executive director, and they will no longer be within the governor's office. So we're really excited about that, and glad that they were able to make that transition. And then our Emergency Management, Disability and Aging Coalition has been meeting regularly. It seems nonstop. This has been a really big issue, currently dealing with IDA, of course, dealing with the pandemic. Anytime there's disasters, as we talked about earlier, we have over 100 people that are actively engaged with MDAC, all of our state agencies, federal partners, community organizations, and advocates. And I really am proud to be able to collaborate with everyone with MDAC. I wish we didn't have to do it as often, but we can't do anything about that. Our State as a Model Employer Task Force, we had our annual survey. We had a great participation for our state employees in that survey. We did some promotional videos. I should have linked that in here, but I didn't. But we had some promotional videos done by the governor, some of the secretaries of our departments, Jay Dordan, our Division of Administration, talking about state as a model employer, and our state agencies are working on their reports for this year, what they've done in regards to making employment available for people with disabilities, as well as what their plans are for next year. And I would add in with this that, and now you can scroll a little bit more. I would just add that in regards to the state as a model employer, that we, and this is not in our report, we passed a law this year to create the State Office of ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. Ricky David is the coordinator, the state ADA coordinator. And she has been really doing a lot of work and gathering information and attending meetings and meeting people. She has a background in human resources, so she will, we're planning on putting forth some legislation to kind of strengthen up that law and creating the ADA office that really makes the state agencies more accountable for some data, so that we can have some data on what's going on in regards to the ADA, as well as putting in some of the things that we've done with state as a model employer underneath the purview of the ADA office in regards to collecting data and that type of thing. And so I think that's moving in a really great direction. Our Gold Awards and Inclusive Art Contests will be, they're coming up. The deadline is November 1st to make your nominations for the Gold Awards and submit the art. And this year, the art is not only visual art, painting or drawings, but we also have a written art, a written component. So you could see there that, it's a 300 word or less written expression or literary works. And then our voting, I have to give a lot of credit to Lillian. She's been leading our efforts in regards to accessible voting. I think she's met with people on every level in government and community organizations and national organizations that work around voting accessibility. We have a couple of legislative proposals regarding voting accessibility. And so we're looking forward to hopefully making some progress there. And of course, this month is Disability Employment Awareness Month. And then I think that's it. Is that the end of our? Yeah, I think that's it. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Polozola, for that report. Do we have any questions from the council members on the report of the Governor's Office of Disability Affairs? Do we have any public comment?
Jill Hano just raised her hand.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see it. Ms. Hano, you're recognized by the chair.
Sorry, I was racing against the clock. I raised my hand like barely in the nick of time. But Bambi, questions. What the ADA? No, the ADA coordinator office. Is that in your report? No, but what act was that passed in the section at something?
Yeah, I forgot. I can look it up.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, the bill number. We had so many bills. I forget.
I know they
But it was a really bare bones type structure, and so that's why I was saying there we want to go forward with more.
Like,
Yeah.
say if it's at 2557, like your goal, like your office is trying to like expand on that like particular bill, like kind of.
Yes, it would be updates or revisions to that law.
Okay,
that was enacted this year.
perfect. And then, okay, the 8-ball age adjustment act, all these gag, the acts, can I Google and read more information about these 4 specific gag to act?
Yes.
Thank you. I think that was it. Shout out to Lil. Good job on the voting stuff.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Hayno. Again,
Mr. Chairman, one last thing. While I kind of hesitated, I was getting verification that I could share, but our Melanie Washington is our executive director for the SICC for Early Steps. And yesterday, she found out that she would be promoted to the position of executive director of the Children's Cabinet. And so we're really excited for that opportunity for her. And I'm announcing it to you guys first. I want to get her permission. But so we're just excited to have, her background will be in the Children's Cabinet and looking at, more broader issues around children. And so just wanted to share with you guys.
Okay, well, thank you for that notification. Congratulations to her. Do we have council members with any questions?
There are no other hands raised.
Do we have any comments any public comment from the chat box?
No, sir.
Okay, well, this report requires no action. It will be placed on file. If there's no objection, the meeting will recess for lunch. Are we sure there's no comments in the comment box?
Yes, there's no question. There's no comment there.
Okay, seeing and hearing none, we'll recess for lunch and we'll return at 1:00 p.m.
That's what I was just about to ask you, Mr. Chairman. What time we was going to be